Now in Florida, the second trial for Dippolito underway. The Palm Beach County woman accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill her new husband back in 2009. 2 years later, a jury convicted Dippolito, and a judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison. But in 2014, the court reversed her conviction, ruling that the pool of prospective jurors was tainted by extensive media coverage of her case. In February of this year, Dippolito testified in open court that police recordings of her talking about her desire to kill her husband were simply part of an acting job for a reality TV show. But the defense failed in its attempts to get her case dismissed, so just last week on December 1st, jury selection began for her retrial. Yesterday, with the new jury seated, the prosecutor asked the jury to pay close attention to the police recordings that sound an awful lot like Dippolito is in on planning the murder-for-hire plot. Take a listen.
Between now and when it's done, you know, you have to have an opportunity to change your mind. Even if you change your mind, I'm talking to him.
There's no changing, no, there's no, like, I'm determined already. I'm positive, like, 5,000% sure, like.
Okay.
Joining us now, Mercedes Colwin, criminal defense attorney and Fox News legal analyst, and Monique Pressley, a trial attorney. There are so many interesting avenues to explore in this case. One of the things Mercedes, that the defense has objected to is the fact that the evidence being played in court has those on-screen words, that they have transcribed the recordings. And her defense team is saying, hey, those words on the screen are not evidence. The recordings are evidence, but not the words on the screen. Can they make that argument stick?
They can make the argument, but it's not going to stick because, frankly, the judge can allow for visual aids, and that's what the prosecution's saying. These are visual aids. I mean, there's a muffling to, you can hear it when you saw the video. Their voices are slightly muffled. It's simply a visual aid. It's not going to harm them. It's not prejudicial, and really it's the balance between, is it prejudicial or probative? It's probative for that jury to actually understand fully what was the exchange between the two.
Well, Monique, she said, as you just saw in that clip, that she was 5,000% sure that she wanted this murder to take place. Doesn't that pretty much ice it in the minds of the jurors?
No, because that could have been something that was said early on during her exchanges with the police's confidential informant. She could have changed her mind. It looks like there is difficulty with the police actually being consistent in taping all of the conversations between the defendant and the informant. And I also disagree where this hearsay on the video is concerned. Just because they put it on there and it may or may not reflect what the two parties were saying on the recording doesn't mean that it should come in or that the jury should see it. They should hear and see the video for themselves, and whatever they observe is what controls.
She got a new trial, Mercedes, because of pretrial publicity. This case was extensively covered. It was on the TV show Cops. We'll get to that in a moment. But she got a new trial because of all the pretrial publicity, and yet this time around, when the trial is being held in the very same county, the judge refused to grant a change of venue because of, you know, public exposure to the case. Does that surprise you?
It did. I mean, certainly it was a call to arms by the appellate division when they said, look, she couldn't get a fair trial the first time because of all the media publicity. So you're going to go back into the same county. I'm sure the local papers are covering it pretty extensively again. It's obviously hitting the national waves. Here we are talking about it. We're back in the same soup as it was a few years ago. And frankly, the defense has to keep bringing it up, and in these sidebars, Judge, we're not going to fair trial. Feather that nest again, because ultimately she may get convicted again.
She is accused of conspiring with a former lover to have her husband killed. He turned into a police informant, and that's how police in Boynton Beach got onto this case. They were also working in tandem with the Fox TV show Cops, and they actually set up a quote-unquote murder scene, a fake murder scene. And when she arrived home, they told her that her husband had been murdered. Now, here's how it played out on the show Cops.
You want to help your husband, okay? If you want to help your husband, you need to go to the station with these gentlemen and tell us everything you know about who he knows, who he's connected to. Don't worry, we've already taken care of your husband under control right now.
Dippolito sobbing about the death of her husband, a death that she is accused of planning. Monique, that will not be seen by the jurors. It's a streamed down case this time around. Does that mean advantage defense here?
Well, it's a proper decision by the judge because that was an obvious setup. Look, I'm concerned about this police department looking like they're more interested in being on TV than they are about pursuing justice. This case has plenty of problems, and I agree with Mercedes. The judge could have ruled to bring in jurors from another jurisdiction or to change the entire case and move it, and that would have been safer. That would have made it at least appeal-proof on that issue. But that's not what they choose to do.
Who's bringing up the publicity, though? Who's bringing it up on all the TV stuff? She is. That's her defense.
We're going to have to run, but we will keep our viewers updated on this very complicated case. Monique, Mercedes, thank you both.